next thing we're going to want to get into here that we've been kind of glossing over, all right, are going to be the railings. All right, so now railings can be built a couple different ways. Obviously, one being that if we build a staircase or we build a ramp, all right, is we can go ahead and automatically place the railings on there. Okay, so Revit will automatically place them. The other way we can do that is also freehand draw it. So if we were in a floor plan, let's say this, okay, we can select and either place on host. So if there's a stair or ramp that doesn't have a railing, you can go ahead and select a stair to place that railing on. Or if you do sketch path, all right, you can see that we can actually just kind of click and draw, all right, and that's basically where our railing is going to go. Okay. Now when we're in our railing tool here, all right, let me back out quick. All right, architecture tab under railing. All right, we're going to click sketch path. All right, when we're in our edit mode, all right, or our sketch mode, okay, under properties, all right, big thing you'll want to pay attention to is your base level. All right, set to level 1. That's what floor plan we're in. You know, obviously make sure that it's set on the correct level for you. Okay. But when we go in here, if we click on edit type, right, to go into the type properties of our railing, right, this is really where you know, the ability to customize this railing comes into play. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my type. All right, so like I've told you guys in the past, if you're changing around any of the type settings, make sure you duplicate your type, unless you absolutely want to make that change to it. You know, in this case, I'm going to do some major kind of overhaul with the pattern, so I'm definitely going to want to change it. So I'm just going to change it to custom railing. Okay. All right, so now we have a custom railing type. All right, you'll notice here railing height. Right now it's kind of grayed out. Okay. I'll show you why in a minute. Okay. But there's a couple different pieces to a railing family. Okay. One of which is the rail itself. All right. And if you look down here underneath where it says construction, so you have top rail, handrail 1, handrail 2. All right. Now, what Revit defines as a top rail and handrail, all right, these are going to be continuous pieces that go the full length of your railing, all right, and aren't kind of interrupted by any of your vertical pieces. So in this case, the top rail, all right, so obviously the rail on the very top where your hand would go, all right, as you can see here, it's set for height, set at 3 feet, okay, and obviously the railing height here is also set at 3 feet. That's what's defining it at the moment. Okay, so if you change the height of this to something else, all right, if you change it to 4, all right, you'd see that the railing height changes as well. Okay, if we keep it at 3, right here under type, as you can see, if you drop this down, you see we have a couple different types that are already loaded in, right? You can load more types in, right, if you feel like it. Again, you know, be in the families there. If you go into the insert tab and do load family, right, you'll be able to find railing types. Okay, in this case, I'm just going to keep it as rectangular 2x2. Right, again, just to kind of, you know, keep it pretty simple and what the defaults are. All right. Now, handrail 1 and handrail 2. Okay, as you can see, we don't have anything here for type because we don't have one. All right, I'm going to leave them off for now. All right, but I'll show you how you can do these handrails after. You can add 2 additional handrails. Okay, and again, like I was saying, is what Revit considers a handrail, all right, or a rail, is going to be any of these horizontal structures that are continuous from one end to the other. All right, so it would be your top rail, or these handrails would be, you know, sometimes you'll see a railing and it has a secondary rail kind of offset to the side a little bit that you can grab onto, all right, as you're kind of going up a stair, right, and that's what that handrail could be, right, but again, just kind of this completely continuous horizontal piece that goes across the whole length of your railing, okay, but like I said, is for right now, I'm going to keep those empty, all right. Now going back up to the construction area here, you see we have rail structure, and in parentheses it says non-continuous. Okay, so if you can think of this here, the rail structure non-continuous, as any horizontal pieces you'd like to add into your railing that are more decorative, all right? So it's not necessarily going to be something that you're holding on to, okay? And where it says non-continuous, that basically means that, as it comes and meets any of the vertical elements, it'll kind of be broken up. So that's why I say, instead of being, more functional piece, it's going to be more of a decorative piece on your railing, okay? And then baluster placement, all right? So the balusters, in your railing, these are going to be your vertical elements, all right? So all your horizontals elements of your railing, all right, those are called your rails, all right, the rail structure. Your vertical elements are called your balusters, and they're also called the posts, all right? We'll show you the posts in a minute, okay? But before I go crazy and start adjusting this, I'm going to go and hit OK, all right? And I'm just going to draw one railing right here, okay? And just hit the check mark. So that way we can look at this in a 3D view, all right? And we can kind of get a sense of what it looks like now, all right? And once I start modifying this, we're going to be able to get a sense of what's changing, okay? So if I select this again and do edit type, okay? So we have edit type here, all right? And there's our railing, again, custom railing. Okay, so railing height's 3 feet. So I was just saying top rail, all right? The height's 3 feet, rectangular 2x2. That's this structure here. So you can see that it goes all the way across the top, all right? It's continuous, it's unbroken by these vertical pieces, okay? If I change this here, let's say we'll add, or not pipe wall mount, but circular, 1.5 inch, all right? Position, left, and right. Okay, if I said let's do left, okay. If we hit apply, all right, hit okay. All right, we can see what that does there. All right, so again, kind of adding a secondary horizontal piece. All right, and this is also continuous, it's not broken. Right, so again, if this is another piece that's to the side of it where you're actually meant to hold on to with your hand, all right, you can add that there. All right, and then if I go back into edit type, all right, I'm just going to switch that back to none. Okay, and so you can see handrail 1, handrail 2. All right, so you can add one, you can also add a second one here as well. All right, again, depending on what you're going for. All right, but aside from just continuous rails, okay, and top rail and handrails, is if we go to rail structure non-continuous, all right, and hit edit, you can see that we have the option to insert, right, on here on the bottom, insert a new rail. So again, this is going to be a horizontal element that is non-continuous, right? So this is going to be more of a horizontal decorative piece. So if we go, let's say we click on this one here to insert new rail, all right, we'll just keep it as new rail 1. Height, so you can specify how high up this is. So if I said this is a 3-foot high rail, if I said this is at 1 foot 6 inches, all right, so we're going to want it halfway up. Okay. Offset. So what the offset means is in plan what side, or if it offsets itself, what side of the line it goes to. All right. So positive value will kind of push, this railing above the line. Negative value will kind of pull it below. All right. But again, it's kind of in plan whether or not you want to offset it from that original line that you drew. Okay. Profile. All right, if you drop this down, default. All right. So again, these profiles here, exactly like the profiles we've looked at before. Okay, you can go in and load a profile family in. Okay, so I'm just going to put elliptical just for fun. Okay, but again, if you want to load in a different profile for it, you can go to the Insert tab and do Load Family and search for a profile to load in for it. Okay, and then you can also set the material here. All right, now you can add or subtract however many of these you want. All right, and also while they're here, in whatever order, right, move them up or down, okay, in terms of the order of what they're going at, right? But again, it's completely up to you and what you're going for, in your design. All right, I'm going to keep it pretty simple for this one at least. Just kind of keep it 1 foot 6. All right, so we're going to have that new rail. I'm going to hit OK. All right, and you're going to see it add right there. So if I go back and hit OK, all right, so you can see that horizontal element there. All right, that's that middle handrail, right? And that's that horizontal rail, again, non-continuous, all right, because it's kind of broken up by these vertical pieces that we have here, okay? Go back to edit type. All right, so that's the rail structure. So that's our horizontal pieces. So if you want to add any horizontals in, all right, for your design, you can go ahead and do that. All right. The next spot we'll go to here is the baluster placement. All right, so if we click on baluster placement, right, it'll bring us up the edit baluster placement screen. Okay, and you'll see we have two sections here. We have the main pattern, right, and we have the posts. Okay, and so if we look in the bottom section here, posts, right, the posts are what are going to refer to as the vertical elements at the beginning, at the end, and at any corners that we turn in our railing. Okay, so you can see here where you have start post, you have end post, and you have a corner post. All right, baluster family, you can change this. Right, so again, depending on what you have loaded in here by default, you'll have some options. Again, you can go through and load in a new baluster family if you see fit through the insert tab. Okay, I'm just going to keep it as that for now. All right, and you can see start, end, and corner. All right, base. All right, to set a base for your posts. All right, as you can see right here, it says it's at host. Okay, so basically this is telling Revit is the bottom of it's going to sit on the host or whatever the railing's sitting on. So whether it's a floor, right, maybe you're building it directly on the floor, right, maybe you're building it on a staircase. So as the railing goes up the staircase, the bottom of it will go all the way down and make sure that it touches and connects to the bottom of the staircase. All right. If you open that up, you can see you can change it from the host to any of the horizontal rail elements that you have. All right. So either the top rail, right, or that new rail 1, right? If you remember that horizontal rail that we put in halfway up, right? You can also use that as a setting, right, for either the base or in a minute we'll do, the top. Okay, but you can set those for constraints as well. Okay, so either host any of your horizontal elements, right? Those can work out just fine for either your base or you can see your top, all right? So your base setting, your top setting, right? So again, where the top of it's going to go up to, obviously where these being the ends, all right, or your corners, you're probably going to want them to go all the way from the bottom to the top. All right, your base offset. So if you want it to be set up a little bit or down a little bit, right, either your top or your bottom offset. Spacing. Okay, so this is basically going to be spacing between this end post, all right, and the start of the pattern itself, right? Or in this case, it has 3/8 of an inch, all right. In this case, the corner sets at 0, all right. Where it's set to 3/8 of an inch, okay. Basically, that means that Revit's going to say it's going to place this post, all right, kind of put it center line wherever the railing starts. It's going to shift itself 3/8 of an inch, okay, and then it's going to start your pattern for whatever you have for the rest of your railing, okay. And that 3/8 of an inch is basically just going to take into account, the thickness of the piece itself, right? Or this is 3/4, 3/8 is going to be half of it, right? So it's just kind of taking that into account. All right, so depending on what baluster family you have in here for the posts, right, you may want to adjust that spacing. Okay, and then offset, right? This value offset is going to be when you're looking at it in plan. So the same way that you're looking at that rail structure, and when we set the offset for that, about whether it was above the line or below the line, all right, that offset value is going to adjust yourself that way as well. Okay. So I'm going to leave these as is, all right? I'm going to leave the baluster family alone, all right, for the posts. And what I'm going to do is the place where I'm going to kind of modify it is going to be in the main pattern, all right? So the main pattern is going to be where we adjust, all our vertical elements basically inside from the start post and the end post. Okay, so this is really where you can kind of start getting into the customization. All right, so you can see pattern start and pattern end. All right, and so what Revit does is it basically goes and Revit says, okay, pattern start here, and it goes down the list and goes, okay, number 2 is this baluster right here. All right, so in this case, it's regular baluster, square, 3/4 of an inch. All right, it has your base, it has your top. All right, offsets for either one. Distance from previous, right, says 4 inches. So Revit's going and saying, okay, this baluster, 3/4 of an inch. Distance from previous, so it goes to the previous baluster. It goes, okay, 4 inches. Places this one. Okay, and then it goes on to the next, baluster in this pattern. Okay, in this case, because we only have one, it goes to pattern end, which means it goes and says, okay, well, the pattern's done. Let's restart the pattern. All right, and it keeps going in that method. So in this case, if we wanted to add additional balusters in here, right? So if we have, okay, square, 3/4 of an inch, if we wanted to add more in here, so if we selected this and said duplicate, right, you can see we're adding in another baluster pattern here. All right, so let's say this one here on the bottom, instead of the square 3-inch or 3/4 inch, we're going to go, round 1 inch. All right, so that way visually we can see a bit of a difference. Okay, naming. All right, you don't really need to change the name of it, but you can go ahead and do it if you feel like it. It's more or less for you to be able to tell the difference between the two of them, when you're actually sorting through this pattern here. Okay, base. All right, so again for the host, base offset, top. Instead of going all the way to the top rail, I'm going to say I only want this one to go midway, right, to that mid rail there. Okay, distance from previous, set at 4 inches. Okay, you know what, maybe I'll set this one at 3 inches. All right, so that way we can see a little variation. All right. Just underneath our main pattern here, right, if you look, break pattern at, this is kind of giving Revit some parameters as to when you want to break your pattern and kind of start it over. So either this, it says each segment end, so it goes and repeats your pattern over and over and over again until it gets to the end of the line. All right, angles greater than, all right, so you can set this and say, all right, if you have a chain of different line segments here, okay, if the angle between the two of them is greater than whatever angle here you specify, all right, it'll break it and restart your pattern, right? Or you can set never, right? So no matter how many different line segments you have for a railing or how many different angles you have in there, Revit will continuously kind of calculate out that rail pattern for you along the length, okay? So again, depending on what you want for your railing and how you want it to look, all right? I'm going to leave it at each segment end at this point, all right? Justify. So this is telling Revit where you want this pattern to start, right? Either the beginning, the end, or centered. All right, so whether or not you want the pattern to start in the center and then spread out from there, or this one spread pattern to fit. So basically, this will just, Revit will take the length of your railing and kind of spread it out and kind of fit your pattern in the best way, right? So that way they kind of evenly space themselves across. Okay. Now, if you do the spread pattern to fit, Revit's going to go and kind of spread this out so you get the most balusters in for your pattern. You may end up in a situation where you have a bit of a gap on one of your ends, right? So depending on what you have for spacing here, this excess length fill, all right, is basically just going to tell Revit, if there happens to be an area on the end where there's a gap, I want Revit to be able to do, this and fill whatever baluster family you have in here, right? So again, a lot of times it doesn't end up coming up at all right, because you're probably going to have, a pretty typical spacing pattern, right? But there may be an instance where if you have quite a complex pattern here, you may need something to fill in the gaps there, all right? So that being said, is I'm going to leave that as is, all right? I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, all right? And you should see your pattern change, all right? So if I come back out here, all right, so let's take a look at this here, all right? So if we remember, okay, our railing, all right, we go here and look at, oh, sorry, not the railings, but if we look at balusters, all right, what we just did here, so we said, okay, Revit says pattern start, right, start post, starts right here, puts our post down, right, 3/8 of an inch. Then it says, okay, we have the post. What's the next thing in the pattern, right? So now it starts the regular baluster pattern. It says pattern start. Right, regular baluster, 3/4 of an inch, square. All right, goes from the base, right, all the way to the top element, and 4 inches from the last one. So it basically goes to this one here, right, where your rail is. It happens to be the start post. All right, and it goes 4 inches, places this one. Okay, Revit does next. It says, okay, what's next in line? This one, round 1 inch, right? We can see the host is the bottom of it. I told it for the top to only go up to that new rail, so it's only going up midway there. All right, and the distance from the previous was 3 inches. So you can see that the space between these two is a little bit different. So it's 3 inches now. So it says, okay, well, it's only 3 inches from that one. It places that. Okay. Now what Revit does, it goes, okay, we're at the end. Revit goes and starts to sup over and repeats the pattern from there. Okay, and then you can see how the pattern repeats all the way down the whole length. Okay. And again, so that's kind of how you can customize a railing. Okay, so obviously we only had some very typical railings in here. All right, or typical baluster families and typical rail families. You can load in additional ones. All right, again by going to the Insert tab and doing Load Family. Right, loading some of those in. Okay, if you have any issues with that, please let me know. But now that we have a kind of custom railing type like this, all right, this is kind of the freestanding railing. What's nice is, when you have a stair like this, you can select the railing free, all right, or independently from the stair. And if you click on the type selector, all right, you can see, oh, we have our custom railing there. You can swap that out, and you can see, okay, there's my railing there, now on my staircase instead, right? So you can swap these out however you may want to once you have that custom railing set up.